Hey y'all, Mason Menega here. There are roughly 45,000 Christian denominations around the world. There are as many Christian denominations as there are hairs of a Calvinist man's beard, but only God would know that. Despite many Christians believing they have the right belief about theology and the Bible, there are thousands upon thousands of denominations. So is there one denomination that is right and the rest are wrong? I bet the First Baptist Church in Intercourse, Alabama is the first church to finally get all theology and the Bible right. So if there are thousands upon thousands of Christian denominations, why are there so many? So today I'll be talking about why there are so many different Christian denominations. Before we jump in, be sure to like and subscribe and turn on notifications. And let me know what you think about the video in the comments. Also, these videos take a lot of time and energy to make, so if you like my content, be sure to support me on Patreon at patreon.com/Mason Menega. And if you enjoy my Twitter account, you can get a shirt or sticker of your favorite tweet of mine at masonmenega.com/store. The first reason why there are so many Christian denominations is because Christianity is contextual, and contexts are different. One of the core claims in Christianity is that God became human in the person of Jesus, and that person was born and lived in a particular context. Jesus dressed, believed, and lived like many other first-century Jews. So Jesus was very contextual to his culture. Another core claim in Christianity is that the gospel should be spread throughout the world. This missionary impulse in Christianity has been in the faith since the beginning and continues to this day. And sometimes that missionary impulse even includes not just being a missionary, but doing missionary. And because of the missionary impulse, Christianity has spanned the world in different cultures for over 2,000 years. So Christianity has always been a religion that has contextualized to whatever culture it is in because God became human in a particular person, in a particular context, and because Christianity has spread throughout the world in far different cultures from which it started. For example, early on in the spread of Christianity, many early Greek images of Jesus depicted him looking like a Greek. You can see why Jesus' beloved disciple was John Stamos. So even in the beginning, Christianity already began contextualized to the culture in which it spread. As Christianity spread to different cultures and throughout time, the images of Jesus and the metaphors of theology began to reflect these cultures as well. For example, legend has it that St. Patrick in Ireland used the three-leaf clover to describe the Trinity to people living in Ireland. So, as Christianity spread and contextualized to different cultures, obviously Christianity to some degree changed as well. If someone who didn't have a familiarity with Christianity, and imagine how cheap their therapy bill would be, and they went into a 10th century Orthodox service in Greece, and then they went to a non-denominational megachurch in California today, they may not even realize these churches are a part of the same religion because of how vastly different they would look and sound like. American author and lecturer Phyllis Tickle has even argued that technological developments in culture have even contributed to the changing of Christianity. One example she points out is that the invention of the printing press right before the Protestant Reformation had a massive impact on Christianity because the Bible could be mass distributed, so clergy and theologians no longer had all of the power to control the interpretation of the Bible and theology. So Christianity is contextual, and because of that, Christianity has changed throughout culture and time, and that has been a big part as to why there are so many Christian denominations. But it isn't the only reason. The second reason why there are so many Christian denominations is because every person has their own perspective. When you were a kid, did you ever look up at the clouds with a friend and you would say, "I think that cloud looks like this or that," and your friend would think that cloud looks like something different? Everyone has their own perspective, and so whether it's clouds or eschatology, we all have different ways we understand things. So Christians throughout history have had disagreements about beliefs and interpretations of the Bible because every Christian has their own perspective. Regardless what your evangelical pastor, who is only qualified to teach theology because he has a penis, thinks, Christians have always disagreed about theology and interpretations of the Bible, even the early Christians. One of the early Christian debates was whether or not Jesus was God. Can you believe there was a time when Christians debated whether Jesus is God? Many early Christians did not necessarily believe Jesus was God. The belief that Jesus was God is a belief that slowly formed in the centuries after Jesus and eventually became popular enough that it was decided upon in the early church councils. The Trinity, a couple millennia before 2000s evangelicals' mom named their daughter that, was also debated in the early church. Some early Christians only believed in one Unitarian God, much like Jews. Other Christians believed Jesus and the Father were persons of God, not the Holy Spirit. And then there were other Christians who believed the Father, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit were the persons of God. So much like the belief that Jesus is God, the Trinity also was decided upon a few centuries after Jesus. But that doesn't mean there were not disagreements between Christians early on because of their different perspectives. There have obviously been many disagreements among Christians about things like baptism or the authority of the church. Not too many years ago, we even saw many Christians debate about slavery. Now we see Christians disagreeing about homosexuality. And in a few centuries, we will probably see Christians still debating whether it should be sloppy wet kiss or unforeseen kiss. Christians have always thought differently from one another, and even if there are official church declarations about what a Christian should believe, that doesn't necessarily mean there aren't faithful Christians who disagree with those declarations. So especially when Martin Luther opened up the possibility for Christians to disagree with the church, and other Christian denominational institutions began to form, it revealed the reality that Christians always have disagreed with each other, and have even practiced the faith differently from one another since its very beginning. So all of that is to say, Protestantism is right. So with Christianity being contextual and people having different perspectives from one another, this creates the perfect recipe for new and many Christian denominations to emerge. When there's a changing of culture and differing perspectives, that's when a big shift can happen in the world. And that's how many new Christian denominations have started. Like I mentioned before, when the printing press was invented and a young Catholic priest felt empowered enough to share his new perspective, a big shift happened that changed the history of the world. Who would have thought something that never works would change the world? And while there were different Christian denominations before the Protestant Reformation, like the Roman Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church, thousands upon thousands of different denominations have emerged because of the Protestant Reformation's recognition that Christianity is already really diverse and empowered people to start their own denominations as a result, including the correct and God-breathed one, the United Church of Christ. And we still see new denominations forming today. While I grew up very evangelical, I technically grew up in a United Methodist church, and it wasn't until much later in college that I found out the United Methodist denomination was mostly pretty theologically liberal of a denomination in America, because liberals go to hell, obviously. And because the theological liberalism is a new perspective, and many of those theologically liberal people feel empowered to lead the denomination, the entire denomination sensed a division, and despite their best attempts, the more conservative people in the United Methodist Conference started a new denomination recently, adding another denomination to the 45,000. And so the new Methodist denomination is an example of how all other denominations have started. When there's a changing of culture and differing perspectives, there is likely going to be a new denomination in Christianity. And that makes it 45,001 denominations in the world, which, given how long this video has been, 45,001 is now how many hairs there are of a Calvinist man's beard. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and also tell me what you thought about it in the comments. This video is brought to you by my Patreon producers. If you'd like to become a Patreon producer, you can find more at patreon.com/Mason Menninga.